Welcome to the podcast Compels You, the show where we are given cursed categories by our AI overlord, tasked with finding movies that fit in those categories and sharing them with you fine folks. I'm Bill, and with me, as always, is my co-host Stacy. How are you doing, Stacy?
I'm gonna be honest, Bill.
Oh boy.
America's a shit show right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I don't know whether to stay here and see what happens or move to Costa Rica, which is sounding better and better and better. They have really good taste in horror podcasts there, I hear.
I hear that too. How easy is it to move to Costa Rica? Have you looked that up?
No, that's the
No.
boring part. I just want someone to do that for me.
Gotcha. Well, you were mentioning in the last episode how they have like the highest was it like happy index or whatever? Or like
In Latin America, and then
yeah,
like think 12th in the world, if
well,
I'm remembering that correctly. But there's another study that I mean the same world happiness, whatever it is,
sure.
just came out again, and I've heard, but not seen with my own eyes, that Costa Rica is now in the top 10, and so is Mexico for the first time, and the United States
Nice.
moved down. Surprise,
Oh
not.
boy. Yeah, not too surprising there. How about this? Have you seen any good movies lately?
Well, I've seen some movies. Let's see.
What do you got?
I saw The Monkey in the theater. Did you see that?
No, is that Osgood Perkins?
Osgood Perkins. So there's our 6 degrees of the podcast compels
Mm-hmm.
you. Um,
How was it?
This movie, like I think Longlegs has a sense of humor, but The Monkey is actually what I would consider a comedy horror.
Oh,
And I'm
okay.
not sure you get that 100% from the marketing. At least, I mean, from the
Right.
trailer, I could tell that it had a sense of humor, but I didn't think it was going to be that
Mm-hmm.
comedy. And I like comedy horror, but there were some really cringy lines in this dialogue, like real clunkers.
Yeah.
Also, the ending was kind of ridiculous, but a lot of it was enjoyable. If you like comedy horror, especially if you liked the comedy gore of like Ready or Not, I
Oh,
think
okay.
you should give this one a try. No
Cool.
promises. I would say that there's some of the like very bleak darkness of Blackcoat's daughter and Long Legs, but that kind of evaporates in Act 3 when it really leans into the absurdity. I think it would have been all right. Actually, this is another Stephen King short story, like Children of the Corn.
Right.
I think it would have been an all right like entry in a an anthology, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
an anthology series where you can have like hour-long episodes. Like, what was that one that we did for Thanksgiving?
Oh, the Pilgrim was the near dark, something dark,
Into the
right?
Dark, was that it?
Into the Dark. There you go. That sounds right.
Yeah, it would have been all right as like an episode. I just felt like it stretched out too long, although there was a lot cool about it. I'm bummed that I missed Heart Eyes in the theater. I was kind of like, oh, a Valentine slasher, nah.
Yeah.
But I found out the director of Heart Eyes was Josh Rubin from Scare Me. Did you know this, Bill?
No. Okay, so that makes me want to see it. I actually wasn't excited about Heart Eyes
Right.
initially.
But I kept seeing all these cool people on socials who were going
Oh,
to see it.
wow.
And then finally I figured out this connection, and now I'm like, it's probably good.
Yeah, that makes me want to see it for sure. Cause I,
Sadly, I think we've missed out in the theater, and you cannot see it online for fewer than $19.99.
ooh, man, that's
Because
pricey.
that's because you can only buy it at this point.
Gotcha.
At the time of this recording, it's not rentable. You know, if I'm gonna spend more than like what a movie ticket costs,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that if I've already seen the movie and I'm like sure that I love it and I want to own it.
I don't own any digital movies.
No?
No, I've rented digital movies in the past, but I'm actually I prefer to have physical media. If I'm going to purchase a movie, I kind of like physical media still. I don't know why.
That is interesting to me
Yeah,
because I just keep imagining like I have a lot of possessions as it is,
right.
not on purpose. And what's gonna happen to them one day? Somebody's gonna have to go through all of them after I kick the bucket. I just don't.
And figure out what a weirdo you are.
Well, that's part of it. But there's a lot of magazines I got to get rid of. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
no, I'm
yeah.
just kidding. Uh, Soldier of Fortune. They're all Soldier of Fortune. Just kidding. I don't read that, but I do know what it
Sure.
is. I'm cool enough to know what it is.
Clearly. Oh, that's
Uh,
great.
anyway, yeah, I think that my position is if I own digital shit, I don't want it to have DRM because that's not really owning anything.
That's fair.
Also, I don't have a working DVD player. Well, I do, but the remote doesn't work.
Oh, well, that's kind of important.
Yeah, and I've tried like different universal remotes, and I there's nothing that will get it past a certain kind of menu when it has options like directors,
Yeah.
commentary. I just sit at the menu.
I've got an old Xbox that I used that I have not played a game on since I bought it 12 years ago. And it's just a DVD player now, slash
Right, I
Blu-ray
forget
player.
about the consoles. I got one
Yeah,
of those.
it's the only reason I use it now. So it is what it is.
There's a movie I'm looking forward to that comes out in May in the
What's that?
theaters, and that is Clown in a Cornfield,
Oh,
which
I
is
haven't heard of that
based
one.
on a series of YA horror novels by Adam Cesare. I have read the first one and I thought it was fun. It's decent. I think the movie will be a good time. Like, I think it'll be a good scare.
Oh, it's looking creepy. I see some pictures here.
Yeah.
Where do you land on clowns being creepy? Are you one of those that like they are legitimately creepy for you?
Not inherently creepy, no, but
Okay,
they can be made creepy.
sure.
Like, just like mimes. I think mimes are not inherently creepy, but you can also make them creepy.
Well, where do you land on Art the Clown then? He's got a little bit of both.
I mean, he's terrifying.
Well played.
Thanks.
That's why they call him the
it's
Terrifier.
it's a different category.
Sure, sure.
There was a really scary clown with a sort of like sad, scary clown in
Hmm.
American Horror Story. That one
Oh yeah,
season.
Mr. Jingles or something. Or no, maybe that's a different. I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah,
In
can't
the
remember his
freak, it
name,
was
but
the Freak Show
yeah,
season.
he
Yeah.
kidnapped kids and kept them in a.
Unfortunately, they totally dropped the ball on his plot line. Like he could have been the best character in that whole thing, but which is
There's too
what
much going on that season.
I
There's too
agree.
much.
Yeah, they jammed a little too much in, but
So on streaming, I there's this trilogy of movies that I just rewatched that I wanted to mention because I don't think a lot of people know about them, or I think a lot of people don't know about them. It's called the Endless Trilogy, and they came out between 2012 and 2019. And I forget the name of the directors, but it's two guys, and they act in a couple of the movies, but not the third one.
oh yeah.
I had seen them all, but not in the correct order, but they had left like a favorable impression on me, so I started rewatching them in the proper order. And good indie films. Like I was not such a fan of the third one, but
That's actually the one I came across that I was going to watch and I didn't.
I would watch the other ones first because there's a
Okay,
major plot point that it won't make sense in the third one.
cool. I'll check them
But I
out.
consider them kind of like weird horror, but with like zero Lovecraft references, which is totally my
Hmm.
preference. No tentacles. But they play with the concepts of time and perception and reality and of like an evil that you can't see or touch, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So I took a little road trip down 2024 and watched a bunch of films from then. Um,
Such a good year.
I'm gonna do a lightning round here. So Heretic did not like it as much as I thought I was going to. I wanted to love this movie. I was so excited. I hated the ending. I like the
Hmm.
last third of the film. I just did not like it. So totally bummed by that. But
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised by Speak No Evil, a movie I was not excited to watch.
I
And I'm
wasn't either.
like,
I didn't see it. Should I see it? The American one?
I really enjoyed it. The main character, and I don't know the actor's name, but he's on the cover and all the marketing stuff. Fantastic.
Hmm.
It's got twists. Some of it's a little predictable, but it's a tense movie, and that's what I'm looking for these days.
You don't think it's all told in the trailer? That's kind of what I thought.
Um, Maybe I didn't pay as close attention to the trailers, to be honest. There were still some things that surprised me. Again, it's not like a deep movie, but it's a fun movie in the
Yeah.
sense that it kind of keeps you tense where you want to be tense, and there's releases and stuff. But I like
I
that movie. I
love
gotta
fun.
say,
I don't know what you've been hearing, but
yeah, yeah,
I enjoy dopamine just like the
sure,
next guy
yeah.
or
This one's got
lady or
the dopamine hits
non-binary
for sure.
citizen.
Mm-hmm. Then I saw Terrifier 3, which I'm like, man, this is a step down from Terrifier 2. I'm not the
Mm,
biggest fan of the series, but I am always rooting it on because I'm like, for this guy to come out of Damien Leone or whatever his name is, to come out of nowhere with this like indie film that did really well, and then to do a second one that's like 2.5 hours and it's absurd, and have that make a bunch of money, and then this third one to make even more money. I just appreciate that that can still happen. Is my me rooting for that series, that franchise.
You got me there. I appreciate that that can happen, but
Yeah,
didn't that guy also come out as a Trumper?
I don't think so.
I think he
I'd have to
did.
double check on that.
I think it was all
Um,
over.
okay, I'll have to look that up.
I'm gonna Google it right now.
But you know what? I will say, like, I'm not like the biggest gore hound, but like the stuff in the third film is like so over the top that it's not even cringy. It doesn't even make your stomach turn because you're just like, this is happening again. He's doing that again. It's too much. Don't ruin the franchise for me.
All right, I'm not gonna do it live or not
No,
live
you can't.
here on the
I'm
podcast.
just teasing you. Is it Damien
Yeah,
Leone?
I don't know how if it's Leon or
Leone,
Leone, but
yeah.
he said some stuff that people don't like, including people that are in his movies.
Interesting. And then the fourth movie I watched was actually 2023 called Strange Darling. Did you see this?
No, but why do I remember that name? I feel
This
like I
is like,
was going to see it.
it is such a good movie. And this is another one that like kind of borders on horror. I don't know if I'd really consider it horror, but
Hmm.
it's told in a very non-linear way that's not annoying. It's actually very engaging. It's told in like 5 chapters that are all, and it plays with a lot of like what your assumptions are about these two main characters and who's good, who's bad. It's that kind of thing. And it's just fantastic. There are so many damn twists in this movie, and it's really well done. I would definitely recommend it for anyone.
Cool.
It's so good. So yeah, those are all the movies I was watching. Do you want to introduce tonight's film and remind our listeners of the categories?
I suppose so. Tonight we bring you part two of Dario Done It, our two-part series on this cursed category that is Dario Argento Who Done It movie. In part one of this series, we reviewed Deep Red 1975 with our friend Graveyard Shift Mike. Nobody calls him that, just me. From the Graveyard Shift podcast. This episode's movie is the 1982 giallo Tenebrae. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but
That sounds
everyone
right. I
I've
don't know how else
no
you
one I've
pronounce it.
talked to has any idea how to pronounce it, so I'm going to go with that. Tenebrae was, of course, written and directed by Dario Argento. We talked enough about that guy last time, so I'm not going to
Yep,
do all that again. If you missed it, you should go back and listen to our episode on Deep Red. That was recorded approximately 3 to 4 years ago
correct.
in my personal timeline. Tenebrae stars Anthony Franciosa, whose last name means French-like. Just kidding, I made that up, but it sounds right,
You
doesn't
had me
it?
for a second.
Yeah. Franciosa was an off-Broadway stage actor turned Hollywood star in the 1950s. He was also married to Shelley Winters, who won an Academy Award for The Diary of Anne Frank, which is perhaps a movie that all Americans alive today ought to consider watching and or watching again. Tenebrae also stars the American John Saxon, who also appeared in Black Christmas 1974. So there again, our 6 degrees of the podcast compels you. He was
Yeah,
also in A Nightmare on Elm Street 1984. You were going to say that if I didn't, weren't you?
I was all over that.
Also starring Daria Nicolodi, who appeared in many Argento films, including, I think, Deep Red, unless I'm remembering incorrectly.
Yeah,
That was a lady, right?
that was his love interest. Yes, with the
Yeah.
funny car, the clown car.
Also starring spaghetti western star Giuliana Gemma. Giuliano Gemma. Fun fact, everyone I just mentioned is now dead except for Dario Argento himself.
He's still alive.
Still alive, according to the internet.
Well, the internet never
I mean,
lies.
I only checked like an hour before we started recording, so there's always the possibility.
He's still alive, still kicking at
Good
84. Can
good work,
confirm.
Dario.
Woo.
Quick plot synopsis, spoiler free guaranteed. When acclaimed American horror novelist Peter Neal arrives in Rome to promote his latest bestseller, Tenebrae. Oh, they said the name of the movie already. Oh, that was early. Uh, he anticipates the typical interviews and book signings, not a real life murder mystery. But that's only because he doesn't know he's in a Dario Argento movie. As the series of gruesome killings mirror the macabre scenes of his own writing, Neil finds himself at the center of a chilling investigation, with clue after clue after clue, once again, drawing whatever protagonist deeper into a labyrinth of terror and obsession. Sounds awfully familiar. As the line between fiction and reality blurs once again. Neil must then confront his darkest fears. Could the sinister inspirations behind his novels be more real than he ever imagined? I certainly hope so. Had we seen this one before? No, right? I
Nope.
guess.
Nope. Nope.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. I actually remember to do three things.
Oh, cool. I want to hear him.
So I only had Deep Red to go on because in my
Yes.
mind, like Suspiria, Demons,
Yeah. Not the same
Dawn of the
realm.
Dead. Yeah, nothing in common really. Very little. So please keep in mind I relied entirely on Deep Red for my three things.
Uh-huh.
Number one, a head goes through a window pane. Ha! That guy sure likes some broken glass. There's like
Oh,
some
absolutely.
point somebody just drops the glass for no reason in that movie. Like there's so much broken glass.
There's so
Anyway,
much broken glass.
the number two thing is black gloves, which
Oh,
I
come
was
on.
certain I was gonna get wrong because that was like the gimmick in Deep Red. But the killer again had black gloves in this movie. Do they all? Is that the joke? Do they
That's
all?
kind of cheap. I'm pretty sure they all do.
Okay, well, I was proud of myself that I got those like in less than like half an hour in. My third thing was like at least one explicitly misogynistic conversation, but honestly, like I couldn't be bothered to pay that close attention to the dialogue. So you
Um,
can either give me that one as a freebie or not. I don't
yeah, that's
care.
fine. I'm sure there's something in there.
Did you have three things?
I did. Mine are I also kind of played off of Deep Red a little bit. My first one, we get an extreme stylized close up of the main character's typewriter. Because
Hmm.
remember in Deep Red, they had all those where there's a black backdrop and it would like the camera would pan across a bunch of things. I was kind of thinking, he's a writer. That'd be great to do with a typewriter. It didn't happen.
Oh, you convinced me that it did just now. I was like, yeah, I
Oh,
remember
sorry.
that.
Right, it should be in the movie. And you get like the
Right.
keys going down and like, all that
I
good
was
stuff.
hoping for more typewriter weaponization.
Yes,
Also was let down by that.
I agree. Number two, a dream that acts as a major clue. There was kind of a flashback.
One of them I think was a dream. I think one of them he wakes up from.
Okay,
So
perfect. Woo, I get a point.
I mean, he,
Um,
she, they, whoever it is, they wake up from it.
right. The third one we may not be able to address yet in terms of spoilers, but my third one was the killer is a woman. So I'm
Hmm.
just gonna leave that there. We'll get to that in the spoiler section.
I thought about guessing that actually,
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm betting that was kind of a one off, but we'll see how we did there.
it's anybody's guess in these movies. It's like,
I mean, so I got some content warnings if anybody's interested.
yeah. What do you got?
Uh, Consistent
I
with
always love
other
hearing these.
Argento offerings. I'm not going to sing it this time.
Oh,
This movie depicts extreme violence and gore, though fairly stylized and absurd, not super realistic to anybody's modern eyes. There is a throat slashing. There's some hacking with an axe. At least one person loses a limb. There's some falling through glass. Ding, ding, ding. Which Argento really seems to have a thing for.
big
And
time.
the character gets attacked by a dog, which just seems unnecessary. It's kind of a MacGuffin.
Right.
And I'm like, why you gotta go and hit the dog's fits with a stick? He was probably gonna leave you alone. You went and taunted the dog. I don't
I have
feel
a
sorry
lot
for
to
you.
say about that whole scene. We'll get
Sorry, I'm
there.
getting way ahead. All right. As always, if there is particular content you are hoping to avoid, please visit doesthedogdie.com, which catalogs user contributed content warnings about movies and books. Please be assured, however, that no dogs die in this movie. Over to you, Bill, for Dark Fact of the Day.
Dark Fact.
So, a little bit about this dark fact. I actually wrote this one for Deep Red, but then Graveyard Mike was kind enough to bring his own, which I think we both appreciate. However, this one works well with this one as well because it has to do with broken glass, if you can imagine that. So, yay for Dario Argento and his love of broken glass. So, in July of 1993, Toronto attorney and engineer Gary Hoy wanted to impress his interns by proving that the skyscraper's windows were unbreakable. For his grand demonstration, he threw himself against the glass and bounced off. Encouraged, he tried again. This time, the glass held, but the frame didn't. Both he and the window plunged 24 stories. He was later given a Darwin Award for this awkward demise, which was classified as an accidental auto-defenestration, which in layman's terms means throwing yourself out a window by accident. So there you go. The lesson learned here, don't throw yourself against windows.
I think I've heard that story.
It's just stupid enough to be memorable, I think. This is his entire legacy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Well, we are going to go ahead and take a quick musical intermission, and we will be back with our spoilerific review of Tenebrae, so stick around. Welcome back to the show. We are now going to go through our spoilerific discussion of Tenebrae. So this film opens with a person wearing gloves who's reading a book in front of a fire. So very quaint. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when you see a close-up of the book, the words are in English, but when they zoom out, the words are in Italian.
I noticed some other places in the movie where printed materials that they were close up on, like they were unnecessarily in English. And I wonder if they just did that for the English, for the American version or the English language market.
It's kind of a tricky thing because otherwise you'd have to have subtitles of the book. You know what I mean? Like it's a strange shot. I don't know.
You could do that.
But they kept going back and forth between like the long shot, which was Italian, and then English, like back and forth like 4 or 5 times, which I'm like,
so
okay,
weird.
It's one way of doing it. And the book's title is Tenebrae, if you can imagine that. And it gets thrown in the fire, and then we get our first taste of that sweet 80s Goblin music. So we are now in a new era of Goblin. So Deep Red was mid-70s, I believe, 75. So that was like the good 70s funk. What do you think about 80s Goblin overall?
It helped me understand where like bad 80s synth actually evolved from. It didn't just appear in the middle of nowhere out of the blue. Like, I think it had the, prog rock synth like innovations that were coming along behind it, and then disco fucked everybody up, which is also something I talked about on the last episode.
Right. Yeah. Very anti-disco.
For completely different reasons. I'm not even anti-disco. I just think that musically it had a dumbing effect.
Sure.
Which is probably not a nice word. Sorry.
I will say too, 80s music, the way it's recorded annoys the hell out of me. Something about the way drums were recorded in the 80s, I noticed it on a lot of these Goblin tracks. Like, the whole track wasn't bad, but like as soon as the drums kick in, it sounds so generic. And I don't know if it's because they went from like analog to digital in the 80s, and it was like the first big attempts to like record digitally, but it just sounds so flat and it has like no character to it. It's hard to describe, but like an artist like Stevie Ray Vaughan, who's like an amazing guitarist, like, as a kid, I loved him. I cannot listen to his albums that he recorded in the 80s, which are most of them, unfortunately, because it just sounds so overproduced and terrible.
I've also noticed that, and I'm guessing that I'm going out on a limb here,
that
it's a combination of digital recording technology had not come along so far, but also drums are really hard to record. So like the combination of those factors, when people started making everything digital, they probably just had to learn how to do it all over again.
Yeah. But I will say this is a major step down for Goblin, I gotta say, from the 70s to the 80s.
Now, I read that this was not officially Goblin, but some of the former members.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so maybe that also...
So you don't besmirch the good name of Goblin in vain.
I need to do a little more research on Goblin, I think.
I think we all do. Lesson for us all.
I agree. So next we cut to a man who is our main character here, Peter Neal, and he's riding his bike to the airport in New York. And already I hate this guy. I don't know what it is about this guy riding his bike to the airport. Do you get the same feeling? Like it's unfair of me to hate this guy because of this, but like there's just something about this that I'm like, Really?
I don't think I hated him until the next scene coming up.
Okay. You held out longer, huh?
Are we supposed to hate him?
I don't.
Because I
I.
felt the same way about the last Argento
Oh,
protagonist.
Marcus. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy,
The
the
jazz pianist.
pianist.
I don't even know, but he basically he beats a car there. He puts his bike there and he like puts on a suit and then hears his name over the
Does he lock
intercom.
his bike at the bike
I
lock at
have
the
no
airport?
idea, but he has this whole
Gotta go
thing like
watch that
planned
again.
out. It's absurd. And then he takes a contentious call at the airport while this woman appears to tamper with his bag. We kind of see she's like
Oh God, I forgot
grabs it or
about that.
something. And then it doesn't matter. He boards a flight to Rome. So it's like a little weird thing happened at the airport with his bag.
Does
Just
that bag
keep
thing
that in your
ever
mind.
come back again? I can't even
No, and
remember.
I'm so confused by it. Like we'll talk about it. We'll get there. But anyway, so
Okay.
now Peter Neal is now flying to Rome, and when he gets there, actually even before he gets there, we cut to another random woman who's shopping at some bookstore and sees Peter Neal's book Tenebrae on the shelf, and then she realizes she's being followed. And then she goes to put, I think she puts the book in her bag, and then she gets accused of stealing. And it's the security
Well,
guard,
he
which
was
is the
stealing.
weirdest thing. He basically like bribes her with, or she bribes him with sex. Did you get this impression?
Yes. Yeah, like
Okay.
she's like, "Hey, I'll show up to your house later if you let me." But then like why what incentivizes her to even go after she's let free?
Oh, I thought she gave him her address because he like wrote something down. But it was like a very
Oh.
transactional thing. He's just like, okay, yep, okay, there's your address. Okay,
Yeah.
great. It's like, all right, that's how things work. In my notes, I put, well, that happened. So the seemingly random woman now, okay, so she's stolen this book. Now she's on her way home, and an unhoused man grabs her through like a construction fence, which is weird. She fights him off and disappears into her house, and then we get some eerie music while she goes about her business. And then that same man scares her through the window, but then she gets grabbed behind or from behind by a guy with leather gloves, and we get our first kill of the movie. What'd you think about this?
So she was described in some places that wrote about this movie as a kleptomaniac. First of all, how do we know that? I don't think that's necessarily you could say that.
She
She
stole one
shoplifted
book.
one time. That's all
Yeah.
we know. She shoplifted a book.
Right.
She probably wanted to read the book.
Right.
But like it's also that sort of weird slasher morality where like I don't think it was necessarily her getting punished for shoplifting
No.
the book. Yeah, she shoplifted that particular book
Right. That was her mistake.
and she was like, I'm hot and I'm out in public. That was her other like it's having confidence while being a woman in woman clothes in
Yeah.
public is
Right.
just an affront to some people. And yeah, and then the camera really loves her in the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of like voyeuristic, kind of like
Very.
see this woman, better not get any ideas. Uh that's how I feel about it. Thanks for asking.
Of course. I want to make sure we're on the same page, with this kleptomaniac. So then she basically gets her throat slit and then pages from the book get shoved in her mouth. So something about this book. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I do, but
I also like how they tried to do like a redirect, like, oh, this unhoused guy, he's the trouble guy. Nope, nope. Look at the guy with the gloves. It just didn't work. I'm just like, okay, I don't
I
know.
mean, other than that's just normal shit that happens to women all the time. But
It
I
didn't really
mean,
surprise me.
yeah, it wasn't connected to anything else in the movie. I'm like, that's not how you do a movie. Stop it.
Right. The killer takes pictures of the scene and then slides an envelope under the door with Peter's name on it. So I guess Peter has arrived now and he's at his. No, he's not even there yet. Oh, no, I think this is the room he's going to be in or something. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, doesn't matter. Every time the killer kills someone, he basically throws a note underneath Peter's door. Meanwhile, Peter is greeted at the airport by the press, and then we just get introduced to a whole bunch of people. He's being interviewed by a reporter asking why Tenebrae is like a sexist novel. I guess this is like, a lot of people have issues with this book.
So let's talk about that a little bit, shall
Sure.
we?
Sure, break it
Uh
down.
he's asked, what do you say about people? I think this is the question. What do you say
Mm-hmm.
about people who criticize like your glorification or exploitation of violence against women.
Hmm.
And he doesn't really reflect at all on that. He's just like, it's just fiction. It's just pretend.
Right.
But I think it's important to inquire about these things that come up in literature or film, for that matter, like over and over again. Is it not fair to ask why? Why there are patterns and why
Right.
it's certain kind of people that get violence exploited in this way in, depictions. Like clearly we as a society we do draw lines. Like not everything can be in fiction without, you
Hmm.
know, they will arrest you for some stuff
Right.
that you write in fiction. So, I mean, sure, we're making choices. And so like, another thing people say is this is Argento like writing himself into the movie, responding to actual criticism that he was receiving at the time about his own depictions of
Right.
violence against women,
I
which
read
are
that. Yeah.
prolific. Yeah. So I just want to point out we are watching a Giallo murder mystery movie about Giallo style murder mysteries. Gialloception.
Ooh, I like that.
But by putting this in the movie, it's kind of like he's holding up a mirror and saying
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, I made this, but y'all are watching. You
Right.
complicit audience, you."
Do you ever see Funny Games?
No.
So it was made by, I think it was a German filmmaker, and it's the whole point of the movie is that same thing. It's like, yeah, I made this, but you guys are watching it. It's that exact same, and it's a very controversial movie. And every time he gets interviewed, that's basically his line. Like, yeah, I made this crazy, heinous movie, but you guys are watching it. Which
See,
I
I
don't
don't.
know. I'm not a
You
big
put
fan
a
of
lot
that.
more effort into it with the tits and the blood
Right?
than we did
Yeah.
by watching the movie.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a big fan of that
yeah.
argument. But yeah, we are introduced to his agent Bulmer, I believe his name is, who is played by John Saxon. And who else are we introduced to? His assistant Anne, who again is played by Dario Nicolodi
Assistant
from Deep
slash
Red.
lover.
I mean, that's always implied with these movies, I'm pretty sure. It's just
Yeah.
part of the job, terribly.
Like, oh,
uh,
it's awful.
and then, so then we see the bag. So he opens up his bag that's been tampered with. Did you figure out what was in it? It looks like a broken watch or something. Do you remember
I,
this?
I probably deleted that right out of my head because it
Okay.
didn't make any sense and it didn't connect to anything else that I noticed.
Okay,
So,
well, I'm just gonna say it looks like there was like a broken watch in it, and it doesn't matter. But anyway, the two investigators show up at Neil's apartment or hotel, and they start questioning him about Elsa, who again is the kleptomaniac, quote unquote, that was killed earlier. Um, Turns out the girl was killed with a straight razor, just like in his book Tenebrae, and then they open up the note that was slipped under the door, and the passage is there was only one answer to the fury that tortured him. And the investigator thinks that he will get more notes, so he asks him to keep him in the loop. And Peter mentions that his travel bag was tampered with. So the investigator's like, yeah, you're probably going to get some more notes. Like, really? Is this a serial killer already?
can
Like, how do
can
they?
we not? Yeah. I
This is
mean,
one killing here.
so one of these guys knows that he's in a mystery movie,
Right.
but
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
they
one
all.
doesn't. Yeah.
Just then, Neil gets a strange call from someone who. Oh, did I call him Neil? Is it Peter? Peter Neil? I hate people with
Neil
two
is his
first
last
names.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to go with Peter. So Peter gets a strange call from someone who says that she can see him. And the investigator runs out to the phone booth, but the person is gone. And then a man randomly loses control of his car and runs off the road. Do you remember this scene?
No, but there's another like random car accident that
Yes, there's
happens.
two of these in
Like,
this movie. So, like, literally, no one's even standing in the road. Like, they're standing next to this phone booth, and this person just loses control and runs their car off the road. Doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, the strange call comes from someone we don't know who it is. They're already gone by the time they get down there. Then we get a close up of a glass of water and a man in shadow drinking it. And then, oh, okay, sorry. This is the first weird flashback. There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
yeah.
So, a close up of a glass of water and a man in shadow drinking it. And then we get a woman in red heels walking towards the water. while 2 shirtless men watch, and then 4 men follow her. One of them slaps her, and then the other men tackle that guy while she kicks him and shoves her heel in his mouth.
None of it makes any sense.
No, and I don't think it's supposed. I'm guessing at this point we're all just supposed to be like, "What the hell just happened?" So what I just said sounds like total gibberish, but it's a weird flashback that was.
And we don't know who's having the flashback.
Right, that's the
That's
other thing. There's no
important.
context to this at all. It'll kind of come into play later, I guess.
It does. It eventually creates a coherent thought.
Right, yes, semi-coherent. So then we cut to a restaurant where Tildy? I'm going to go with Tilda, who is a female press agent from earlier, is talking to another woman who I think is her lover, Marion.
Yeah.
And Marion is trying to seduce this like large muscular guy playing video games. And Tilda's kind of like mad about that, I think.
What game do you think he was playing?
Let's see, the 80s.
But it was early, like was 1982, right?
Yeah. So that's got.
You have Pac-Man.
Frog?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, maybe. I was thinking like Frogger, but that's on more of a console kind of. Asteroids? No, that's earlier probably. I don't know. He's playing something. Donkey Kong, we'll say. So then Tilda and Marion are back at their home. Tilda's super frustrated with Marion because she had sex with that man, apparently. And then she hears something and looks out the window. So this is just like one of these ridiculous scenes where we get this long sweeping shot of the entire roof line of this house. It feels like it goes on for 5 minutes.
I'm going to make a mouth sound. Don't edit it out. Okay, I'm done.
Perfect. Yes. Was that the sound of the person?
Oh, that was the sound of my sigh about this movie.
It goes on and on. And I'm sure they thought they were being very clever with this camera work. And maybe from a technical perspective, it is clever, but my God, it is so boring at this part in the movie. And then we cut to a person cutting the blinds from the outside while Tilda is still mad about Marion playing loud music. And then Tilda hears someone whisper something, is grabbed from behind while putting on a shirt, and then sliced with that straight blade again.
Can we just say that Tilda hangs around for a long ass time, like naked with a towel, not even drying off, and she's already like listening to a record on a turntable and like drinking wine. Like
this is such a trope in these movies. Yeah,
only in movies. Like
only in movies.
In normal life, don't people just dry off and put their clothes on?
I do, as a sample size. Yeah, it's real weird. And then naked Marion goes to check on Tilda, and then she sees her body, and then she's chased back upstairs, and then her throat is sliced, and then the killer takes pictures because that's what the killer does. But then we cut to a room where the killer is now hanging his pictures and cleaning the blood off the razor.
Do you mind if we back up just a little bit?
Sure, by all means.
So, interesting. It's 1982.
Yes.
We have 2 gay women in the film. Pretty progressive, right? Progressive
cohabitating.
Not progressive representation. This is 100% fake movie lesbianism for the male gaze. So they have one kiss in the restaurant.
Okay.
For the sake of titillation.
Sure.
Something you don't see on TV, right?
Right.
And then, wow, what a surprise! They're immediately punished for it. Also, for the sake of titillation, it's like they were all like, "Do we fetishize the lesbians or do we kill them? So why not do both?"
Right.
And then we fetishize the killing as well.
Huh.
Because I think about the framing of the scene, like all the voyeurism and the like angles and the spying on the like dressing and the towel drying. And also, I just have to point out, like the whole fight that they had was all about a man. Like, is that what men think? So man-centric. Like, there are 2 lesbians in the movie who live together, and the movie still doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
And honestly, that's what had me so confused. It's such an odd plot point, too, where it's like, okay, I thought these 2 were together, and now she's like just way into this muscular guy. And I'm like, I mean, I understand, there's a spectrum of sexuality, but like,
sure.
I don't know. It just seemed like such an odd plot point, though, especially for characters we don't really spend any time with in this movie.
Or ever care about again.
No.
Like, we don't get to know that they only exist to be killed.
Exactly. Yep. I totally agree. So then I think we cut to like the next day and we get the like housekeeper's daughter, Maria, who goes up to Peter's room to turn on the hot water. And Peter is wearing a robe that has a collar that makes it look like a trench coat. It's like a trench coat robe. It is the strangest goddamn thing I've ever seen. And I was getting creepy vibes here. I don't know if you were. I mean, he was kind of being gentlemanly, but like, I don't know. There's just always something about like a young woman going up to like this older man's room.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
then
know.
they introduce the younger guy character, and
Yes.
he has a slaps her on the butt moment with the
Uh-huh.
young. Like, do we really have to do that? Really,
Is that Gianni?
Johnny? Yeah,
Gianni? It's
yeah,
so fun to say.
who of course
Gianni.
becomes an important character later, while she does not.
Yes.
But
Correct.
anyway,
But then the killer slides an envelope under Peter's door. Of course, he almost gets seen by two maintenance men, and the note says, "So passes the glory of Lesbos."
it says that in Latin though.
What's that? Oh, it was in Latin?
It says that in Latin, which I said is important, but
Oh,
it's not
yes.
really.
No,
Never
nothing's
mentioned
important.
again. There's nobody in the movie has any Latin credentials that we know
Right.
of.
Next, the investigator meets with the coroner, who confirms that it was the same razor that killed all three and that Marion had had sex before she died. So interesting. Uh, then the captain calls Peter to tell him that the two girls were killed. So now we get the thin, like, interviewer, Cristiano Berti, who now is questioning Peter about the perversion of his book. So again, Peter's just going through this, what do you call it, like a media tour, I guess. He's kind of in like interview mode. Is that his whole point for
Yeah,
being here?
I mean, book signings,
Yeah,
interviews. Side note, I think the days of publishing when a famous author gets enough money to have a personal assistant, I think those days are over, sadly, for
right.
publishing. But anyway, must have
Yeah.
been nice.
Could you imagine that? That's insane.
Yes, but the birdie guy,
Mm-hmm.
Birdie,
Birdie.
uh, he seems really hung up on like, but your book is about aberrant sexual behavior
Mm-hmm.
and those people get punished, and then Peter's like, well, it's not really about that, and then they have this is an interesting thing where he's like, but there's gay characters in it, Birdie says, and Peter's like, there's one gay character also, so what? Like,
Yeah.
so that's a nice like somebody sticks up for queerness
Yeah.
there in 1982.
It's just like Deep Red, right? Like there's like a little bit of progressive thoughts
Right.
there with mixed in with not so progressive stuff.
It's
You know,
always a mix, isn't
it's
it,
always a
with
mixed,
this guy?
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Peter then says that he wishes he wouldn't have written Tenebrae and wonders that it is someone that he knows who's doing these killings, of course. And then he looks out the window and sees the woman with sunglasses and thinks it might be his ex named Jane. This was not like explained that well, I feel like, in this movie.
Such a red herring, I
We just
know.
kept seeing this woman and like she kept calling and then disappearing and stuff. And I'm like, okay, Jane, good to know.
Were they married and divorced? Are they not
I
divorced
thought it was his
yet? Like,
ex. Oh, I don't know. It's a good
there's this
question.
whole like hang up regarding
Oh, that might
something,
make
but
sense then with what
sure
happens
what it
later.
is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll revisit that. So Anne, again, Peter's assistant, thinks that Jane may have been the one that
Assistant lover.
tampered with his assistant lover. Thinks that Jane may have been the one that tampered with his travel bag. So here's a question for you. In Italy, the driver's side is on the right side, correct?
Is it? I don't think
Oh, is
so.
it not?
Is it?
Oh, I
No.
don't know. Maybe not
No.
then. Okay, because I was going to say Anne is on the wrong side of her car. I don't know. I thought that was odd. So then the killer. Okay, so many cutting. Okay, so we cut to the killer who's now
Yeah.
leaving his room. I'm assuming the room where has his photos.
I think, yeah, I interrupted you when you were talking about how he was developing his own photos
Yes,
and
he's
there were
developing
negatives and
photos. It's his
however
little
they did
like
that.
it's his
The
little trophy
fluid.
room. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um. So he's leaving this room. He leaves his keys dangling in the door, and then
He or she or
oh,
they.
sorry,
We
he
don't
or she.
we
Yes, my
don't
bad.
know.
I
Yeah.
don't want to give anything away. I don't remember this. We see a man with black gloves go to approach a prostitute, but realizes he doesn't have his keys.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was going to go kill
But there's
someone.
so many random things in this movie
That's what
that
I
like
mean. They don't
don't connect.
No, but this is my favorite thing. So now we get Maria, again, like the caretaker's daughter, whatever, is on the back of a motorcycle yelling at some guy, and then she gets off the motorcycle and gets chased by a dog, like immediately.
But she's mad at the guy for something and she's like,
Yeah.
bastardo. But I
Yeah.
said it like Spanish, but
Right.
it's not.
Yeah. So she's like,
I
yeah,
didn't say it
pissed
right.
at him, gets off his bike, and then the dog mauls her, but she gets away.
Well, first the dog is just barking at her, and then
Right,
she picks
right.
up the stick, starts hitting the
Provokes
fence.
him. Yeah,
I'm
provokes
like,
the
that's
dog.
really not smart.
But she like gets over a fence and then the dog jumps over a whole bunch of fences.
This
Like this
really
dog,
long scene.
it's so long. And then she eventually ends up at this really nice house with a pool. And immediately you can tell this is like the killer's house or, wherever this room was with the photos.
Did you expect the dog to jump into the backyard of the house by the pool? Because that was a little surprising to me. I
Right.
was like, okay, that's funny.
Everything is so bizarre. I mean, the dog just like keeps attacking her and coming after her.
It's like the dog pursues her for miles. Like the
Right.
dog has a grudge.
Seriously. And then she ends up in the room again with the keys in the door. So she goes down there. And I will say, this is the one scene in the movie that actually had like the makings of like a scary scene in a horror movie. Like going down these steps, the way it was shot, there was like a lot of good shadows and stuff.
Yeah.
You
I
get
was
the
a little
character like
tense.
very tense. Exactly. And you get the dog element, so she's kind of trapped.
She's bloody, like she's been attacked and bitten a
Oh,
couple of
yeah.
times now.
Multiple times. This poor woman. And then she becomes terrified when she realizes she's like looking at the photo, so she immediately knows what's going on. So kind
That
of,
this is when they do close up and like the newspaper is in English that says like
oh, I didn't
the,
notice it at
the
this part.
slasher has two victims or something,
Right.
and then like then she finds some notes that it's like a handwritten, like what we would think of as a spreadsheet, but it's like handwritten,
Sure,
and it
sure.
has stuff about like habits
Details.
and
Yeah.
details and like people's names. And so she like stuffs tries to stuff all the papers like in her skirt
Which is
to
like,
take
that's
the
kind of a
evidence.
smart move ish. I mean, like,
Eh, she
she's
should have
trying.
gotten out while she could,
Well,
but
yeah, I mean,
that's not what happened.
nah, she's trying to be helpful. And then she goes up the stairs into the house, and it's this like crazy lavish 80s house with like lots of geometric shapes and couches. I think it has like one of those sunken living room things that were like
It's
very big in the 80s.
so weird though. It's like it looks enormous,
Yeah.
at least from what we could see, and it's
Yes.
completely like open concept. Like there's
Oh,
no
yeah. No
walls
walls in this
on the
house.
first floor
No.
at all. It's just this huge space. Like
Uh
I
huh.
would not feel comfortable relaxing in that living room because it's not a room. It's just everything.
And there's just windows everywhere. It's the whole thing is just
Huge panes of
windows.
glass,
So,
which is
yeah.
important later.
Oh, of course. Oh, so Maria finds a phone. She places a call, and then the killer shows up with a blade and whispers, she somehow gets out of the house. I mean, she is a fighter, I gotta say. She like eludes the dog multiple times, eludes the killer once at least. But then she falls over, as you know, women generally do when they're running in movies. And killer's POV shows them running with a piece of wood extended. Okay, I don't know. It's weird. The killer catches up and then
Oh,
kills her
right,
with an
because he's like
axe.
holding his axe, I think, like this. Like
That's what it is.
y'all
Okay,
can't
that's what
see
my
me,
note
but
was. Yes.
I'm doing the bicycle handle hold right
It's an
now
odd way
in the
to show
camera.
that someone is running with an axe from a POV perspective.
Is that like the safety position for running with an
Is
axe?
that like holding your
Are
scissors
there
by like the blades when you're
are there rules about that?
I
Like,
don't know. They tried. It's very strange, but the killer catches up and then eventually just kills her with the axe, as you would expect. The next day, her body is found by someone cutting the grass. Then the investigator warns Peter that the killer is getting closer to him. And Peter, Anne, and Johnny put on their investigative hats, and Peter says the interviewer seems strange. So now Peter's starting to.
Bertie.
Yeah, Bertie. Sorry, yes, the interviewer, Bertie.
Cristiano Bertie. That was
Um,
my terrible Italian accent. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so
oh,
sorry.
it's okay. It's perfect. We need that. And then that, I guess he lives only 3 blocks away from him. Peter doesn't want to share this thought with the investigator because if he's wrong, he would look foolish. But if he got it right, wouldn't that be something? That's what he says.
Okay, that's when I thought he's a little strange. Like more than a little strange.
This goes back to again in Deep Red, where nobody shares clues with anybody that should be receiving
Right.
these clues, like law enforcement of any type. He's just like, I've got
So
a
many
hunch here.
similarities. Yeah. And like the justification, at least they gave one for not sharing clues. Like his justification is okay, I'm gonna look foolish if I'm wrong, but that's like pretty thin when you're talking about
Right.
people getting murdered and you have a legitimate idea, you know?
Yeah. But how cool would it be if I was right?
Also, ick. Yeah.
Yeah. So then Gianni and Peter play detective and break back into that house where Maria was killed. And the killer is burning all of the papers and photos and breaking his blade. So he's trying to dispose of the evidence. They then see Bertie walking around with papers, and he's approached by the killer and chopped with an axe.
So
Yes?
I'm gonna hold my dot for just like a minute.
Okay,
Please,
sure.
do go
I'll
on.
continue. So Bertie gets axed. Johnny finds Peter, who's been hit in the head with a rock. I don't remember who hit him with the rock. That must have been the killer? No.
I do, but we'll
Okay.
get there.
And then I put in my notes, it's funny how matter-of-fact they are about everything. And it's exactly the same as in Deep Red, where nothing phases these people.
Without the slapstick. This movie did not have the slapstick element
which
whatsoever.
Sorely missing. But like Peter's got like blood on his head, and he's just like, oh, it's not a big deal. No big deal at all.
I'm fine. Yeah.
And then Johnny just casually mentions that the guy has an axe, and he says that Bertie had recognized the killer. So he saw that as he was being axed, he recognized the person that was killing him, which is maybe important. So now we get to the part in the film where Anne, again, our assistant lover, tells or suggests that maybe he should go back to New York, which is very similar to, again, Deep Red, where she's like, I think we should go on holiday.
Yeah.
It's a good time to go on holiday, which is great. And I guess Anne agrees to spend the night there. And I said, shocking, they're sleeping together. Great. The next day, Peter visits his agent and tells him that he's thinking about leaving Rome for a bit, but his agent pleads with him to stay.
Stay for one more thing or something, right?
For some reason.
One more thing.
Sure. And the agent's room looks like the walls are made of like mustard yellow velvet. It's like the swankiest, awesome office I've ever seen. And then the agent, I think Peter leaves, and then the agent opens a paneled door and Jane comes in and they kiss. It's almost like he had her like stowed away back there, and he's like,
he did, because she said something like, I feel so bad hearing his voice while I'm hiding behind the door or whatever. And then
it's so silly.
They make out like ravenous
like teenagers. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So strange.
Is that what Italy is like?
I guess. I've only been there once. I didn't experience any of that side of Italy.
You didn't?
No, sadly.
Where do I sign up for one of those assistant lovers?
Assistant lovers. Yeah,
I mostly need the assistant part, let me be clear.
That's probably a good way to go. So then we get to what you had alluded to earlier. Gianni casually causes a car accident as he has a flashback about the murder. Does he like burn through an intersection? Is that what it is?
Yes. And then like these people are like yelling at him, and he just like he doesn't even know.
Not phased at all.
And then Peter's like, I'm getting out here.
Yes.
Okay, that is funny. That is what I forgot about that.
And then so he drops Peter off at Bertie's house, and the
or nearby, like he's gonna.
Oh, nearby, yeah. And then we cut to the investigator asking Peter for his help, but Peter says something is missing. And then he gives this stupid quote: when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
That's Sherlock Holmes. That's not stupid.
Is it? Oh, I thought he was just waxing poetic. Yeah. Well, I take it back then.
It's from the Hounds of Baskerville.
Oh, nice. Look at you. I'm not that smart.
Well, they said it in the movie.
Oh, did they?
But I'm sure, yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. So,
I
yes.
also knew the quote, so it stuck with me, I guess.
So the investigator is asking Peter for his help, which, sure, why not? So then we get Jane. Remember Jane? Yep, the ex-wife.
Poor Italian police. They need so much help from civilians.
Well, and that's, again, it's a carryover from Deep Red again. Like, they're just total imbeciles, can't, investigate anything correctly. You need, a jazz pianist's help. You need a writer's help.
Main thing I've learned from Italian
totally
movies
incompetent.
So far.
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, so Jane returns to her place, and there's a package with her name on it. And in my notes, I said there's so many awful metal art pieces in this woman's place.
Oh, my God.
Which actually kind of comes into play later, which is funny.
It sure does.
So she opens it, and it's a pair of red heels, just like we saw in the earlier flashback. Ooh.
Is that her house, or is that Bulmer's house?
Oh, good.
I feel like she doesn't have a house there.
That would make
because
they
keep thinking like, shouldn't she be in New York? And they keep
Huh.
calling her house in New York to see if she's there
And
every
it's a
time, like, he
definite, like,
thinks,
house, not like a hotel.
right.
Yeah, you're right. Good call. That must be Bulmer's. Okay.
So he's the one that has all the
The terrible
weird,
artwork.
dangerous looking art.
Yes. Oh, God. Okay, so then we get, speaking of Bulmer, so then we get Bulmer waiting for Jane to get lunch or something. He's in the middle of this, like, large, open public square, and he does some people watching. He just sits there for a while and, like, watches people, and he's, like, totally distracted when all of a sudden someone just stabs him in the stomach. His hat flies off his head, and then Jane shows up and, like, quickly walks away wearing the red heels.
Right. Which is important because in the gauzy
Uh-huh.
flashbacks, so that girl on the beach is always wearing red
Red
heels.
heels.
So
Yes.
perhaps there is some connection.
So who stabbed him?
You really don't know?
I don't think, I mean, it's
Oh, let's keep going.
okay. Hold on. Let me think about this. Is it,
You'll find out. We'll get there.
maybe I'm just totally, okay. I'm just forgetting. Well, okay. I trust you that we'll
It
get there.
doesn't matter. That's the answer.
Okay. Because I'm like scanning my head of all like the main people that should be the ones that would have killed him.
No,
Okay.
no wonder the ending seemed confusing for you.
Okay, it's making more sense in that it makes less sense to me.
I mean,
my misunderstanding.
That's my main bullet point from this movie.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on. So Peter decides he's going to leave Rome and he's not going to tell anyone except for Anne, of course, where he's going. So that night, Johnny sneaks back into Bertie's house.
And then we see a plane take off. Just so deceptive.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. It didn't deceive me because I wasn't paying attention.
What a good strategy.
That's how I cut through the bullshit. I just don't pay any attention. Take that, Argento.
Skip to the last scene and see who did it.
Who done it, not who did it. Who done it. Oh, God. So we're back at Bertie's house again. I feel like every single scene is us just going back to Bertie's house again. So
God, it was expensive to set up. They got to get their money's worth out of all that art.
Which the whole thing should be a crime scene. Again, the incompetence of the police. That everybody's just walking through this damn house. It doesn't matter, apparently. So Gianni goes back to this house after jumping a fence, and then we see a gloved hand take the key out of his car's ignition. And yeah, it doesn't matter. We get a flashback. So then, we do get a flashback of Bertie saying, "I killed them all."
So with Johnny's inside the murder scene house,
right? He has that premonition,
and then he remembers.
Yes, right. Yes, of course.
So then he's like, so if Bertie was the killer, then
who killed
Bertie? It was like total
yes.
it was so innocent. I know. And then but go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And then he gets in his car and gets strangled. He catches a glimpse of the killer before dying, and the killer then grabs.
Does he look shocked? He's like, "Not you."
Yeah, could you imagine?
No, that doesn't happen.
The killer then grabs the axe from inside of a tree trunk.
Okay, I missed that, but I have something to say about this whole scene.
Please do. Please do.
So, does this sound familiar, everybody? Like, okay, a character witnesses something important at a murder scene, but then later cannot quite remember what it was. And that ends up being the key to the whole thing. Later, the memory comes back, like this dramatic,
very conveniently,
light bulb moment, but only when they go back to the scene. You have to be in the place in order to have the memory, because that's exactly how memory works.
Wait, are you referencing Deep Red?
Oh my God! The nerve that you would say that. Yes, I am.
Oh my God!
And then they get either murdered or attempted murdered. That this is the pattern.
Yes.
Before they can tell anyone what they found out.
Right.
It's like there was a painting in the mirror, but now there was a confession in the living room. Sorry for the spoiler for Deep Red, y'all. It's really old though.
Yes.
Yeah. So Gianni is basically like Marcus, except less fortunate, because Gianni is like, the second he remembers that he heard, I killed them all, then he's immediately garroted by the plot police.
You're saying Gianni is more the Marcus. I'm thinking it's like a Gianni and Peter mixed together form a Marcus. Like those two kind of, except the end of the movie gets
Kind
a
of.
little, yeah. Um,
Yeah. But yeah, in this instant, like
yes,
in this
for
pattern, like
how they
Gianni
come to
fills the
realizations.
Marcus
Yes.
shoes of, yes, having the key
The key
memory.
memory.
And then like another thing is like
Yeah.
as soon as you have a clue, you have to die.
Yes.
Like as soon as you and so like nobody else gets the next clue, because it's
Right.
all a mess. Chaotic mess.
Correct. Yes.
Death.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think we're now getting to like the grand final scene, more or less.
Getting
Yeah.
close.
Are we at the point now where so Jane calls looking for Peter and talks to Anne, and then she says that she did something.
Yeah, Anne's like Peter left to
Right.
go back to New York. So Anne also believes that's what happened. And yeah,
Right.
and then Jane's like, you gotta stop me from killing myself or something. And
Yeah,
I'm
like
like,
real dramatic.
what? Like, no explanation was ever given for
No.
that. So I'm thinking it has to be some like fuddy-duddy thing because everybody's Catholic,
Uh-huh.
even the Americans
Sure.
in this movie. And like they were either divorced or possibly not divorced, but now they're separately seeing other people. So perhaps that is like where her guilt comes from. She's having an affair with his agent, which would be a
Oh.
major like backstab, right?
Sure, sure. Oh, that's interesting.
It's
I
like
think you gave this more thought than he did, honestly.
I'm giving it thought right
Yeah.
now. But yeah, but I mean like there has to be some reason she feels bad enough to say that. She's sitting there with a gun.
Right.
So either she thinks she's gonna die or she's.
Right.
Yeah, why would she be sitting there with a gun? Like, what reason does she have to think that she needs a gun other than on
Well,
herself, I
she thinks
guess?
she's going to get killed, right?
But why?
Because Bulmer just got killed,
Hmm.
right?
I mean, that's fair.
Like the one
Yeah,
closest to you. So do you think
yeah.
she suspects that Peter killed Bulmer
I don't know. Well, maybe because maybe she
because
thinks it's
Bulmer
like a
was
jealous, ragey thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is getting deeper and deep. This is like whew.
Is
No,
it
not really. Anyway,
getting sillier?
so Anne's gonna go to Jane's Bulmer's apartment with the awesome
Bulmer's, yeah.
statue
House, yeah,
house, yeah, and Jane's
whatever.
cradling a gun while she waits, and then all of a sudden an axe breaks through her window and cuts off her hand, and blood
So much
sprays
broken
everywhere.
glass. And like this arm getting chopped off is the fakest looking,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
it's almost
like the
charming.
blood that squirts across
Yep.
the wall, like the way that she moves is exactly to make this like perfect
Yeah,
arc of blood spray. Like
it's like an art
you could see
installation.
Argento there, like, okay, turn this way now,
Right.
spray the blood.
Uh
No, don't get outside the lines.
huh.
Gotta look like this.
Oh, I love it. It's amazing. And then we get our second scene from the flashback, which is the woman
Or
on the
second or third.
or is it the third maybe, yeah. We get the woman from the beach getting stabbed to death in the red heels and then someone removing the heels.
But not on the beach. It's happening at a different
Oh, is it a
location.
different location? Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Like she's wearing different clothes. Like she's totally surprised by whoever is stabbing her.
Right. The killer turns the lights off as Anne then pulls up, and then she's immediately stabbed with the axe as she enters.
But it's not Anne.
Oh, this isn't Anne?
Well, he thinks
Oh, he thinks it.
he was surprised by her and he thinks it's Anne, but which I don't know why he would think it's Anne. Because remember he like flips her over and then he's like because he's like, I'm so sorry, Anne. Oh God, I didn't know it was
Wait,
you.
who
And
did he
then
think it was going to be?
he thought it was gonna be Anne. I mean, he thought it was Anne, but he didn't mean to kill Anne because that was his assistant lover. Why would he kill her? But who it really was the lady detective who has almost no role in this movie
That's
whatsoever.
right. Okay.
She's never around for questioning.
Right.
Like she was introduced one time and now she comes back just to get killed in this scene. And then at that moment, Germani or whatever the man cop
Yes.
comes in the door and they like look at each other and then Anne comes in and he's like, "Oh my God, who did I kill?" And then he flips her over and it's the lady cop. That's who it is.
Right. Okay.
So then they think, he thinks the jig is up or whatever.
Right.
Go ahead.
I mean, you were doing a great job there. Let's see. Oh, so Peter slices the man cop's throat?
No.
Oh, no. Sorry. Nope. I
Yeah.
see where we're at now.
This is a great scene, by the way.
So
okay.
I think I left some out of my notes here, but you go. I think you were on a good roll
Okay.
there.
Peter does this unhinged self-throat slashing while he's making this horrible face.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, this is really like in your face,
Intense.
like gory
Yes.
horror self-destruction
Sure.
in a movie for the time period. I was like pretty impressed. And so Anne is like, no, Peter, ah, and then the cop is like, don't stay here, because he tried to pick up the phone and make a call,
Right.
but the phone didn't work, of course. And so he's like, don't stay here, let's go call it in. I'm
Call it
gonna
at the
go call
car.
it in
Yeah.
from the car, come with me. So they go out to do that. He's like, come right away, like, because guy's bleeding out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's yeah.
But then how do we learn? So then it turns out that Peter was accused of murder when he was a teenager in Rhode Island, but there wasn't enough evidence. How did we learn that?
I know, from Interpol called the
Okay.
cops because Interpol is aware of this, not only the serial murdering that's happening, but also that the author is involved
Yes.
somehow, and the author is in the same city where the murder is,
Oh,
and they somehow have a record of this author
it's
as
incredible.
a juvenile
Yes.
being accused but never even charged
Right.
for the stabbing that's in the flashbacks.
Oh my God.
So that's the stat. Now we realize. So we've gotten these flashbacks like throughout the films.
Yes.
And so let's just review.
Sure.
We got the woman in red
Yes.
heels, which is a theme,
Mm-hmm.
humiliating a teenage boy because he slapped her first for reasons I don't understand.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
Maybe
sense.
like she was supposed to be with him, but now she's about to make out with like these four other
Right.
kids, dudes, like young
They
people.
also don't look young in this either. I think that's what threw me off. They look like adults, which is good because
They're
it's a
all
movie,
wearing
but like,
white
yeah, it
pants
looks
and
like
they're on
it's
the
like a cult
beach. Like,
almost. It's weird.
what the fuck is happening? But okay, the funniest thing is that this was supposed to have happened on a beach in Rhode Island,
Uh-huh.
and this is the least Rhode Island is looking
I didn't even
place.
think of that.
This is the most non-American looking beach
Right.
scene with the white like ever.
Uh-huh.
There needs to be a Hall of Fame for like season movies that are supposed to be in the
Right.
US with Americans but are clearly
Clearly
not.
not.
So anyway, so she sicks the other guys
Right.
on him, and as he runs away, and they all like beat him up.
Sure.
So okay, she's a bully. She like steps in his
Mm-hmm.
face with the red heel and like slaps him around,
Yeah.
kicks him. I mean, clearly he survived. But somehow he decides to murder this girl over that. And this is his origin
That's what
story.
I mean. It is
Like,
so
this is his villain
odd.
arc. It's so like, I hate women because one woman was mean to me
He goes from
once.
0 to 100 like
Yeah, and he wasn't even like, so I guess after he stabbed her, he forgot that he did it because it didn't even come back to him until this whole other serial murder thing was taking place
right. So
around
did that
him.
like activate this inside him?
It activated his flashbacks. And so
Oh my
so
God.
it's let's just be clear, he's not killing because of some deep philosophy
No.
or some tragic loss. It's all because a girl spurned him in high school, and it's really wild that the movie treats this as enough of a reason to be like, well, of course he's the murderer. Look what she did.
Right.
But anyway, okay, so now that we know that it's
Yep.
him, can I please go back to the scene where Peter and Johnny are staking out Bertie's house?
Yes.
Because it's so absurd. So we've got Peter pretending to investigate, but really he's planning to go inside and kill Bertie this entire time,
Right.
even though Gianni's right
Why
outside
would you do that?
on the other
I didn't even think
side
of
of the
that.
giant plate glass window.
Right.
And then after that, somebody crashes through the plate glass, but it's not Bertie. And then like Gianni runs, and then that's when he's pretending to be unconscious because he just
Uh-huh.
injured his own self.
Yes.
And then he's like, "Well, I don't know what
Oh,
happened."
that's right. Okay.
It seems like it would be a really difficult murder to plan to happen exactly in the right place
Sure.
in that cavernous open concept mansion, such that the person standing right outside could see the victim,
That's true.
I guess, which was the intention, but not see the perpetrator.
It's the worst eye line of
It's
that
just,
entire house.
it's so silly.
So did he want Johnny there to be a witness that Peter was with him? Like that was like his alibi, basically. Like
Yeah, like so that the killer, so that he could then get away with killing his ex fiance. I
Sure,
think that's the word
sure.
that they used, and or ex, maybe ex-wife and her
Yeah.
fiance or ex
Yes.
the couple that he's enraged about, although he's never mentioned that
No.
at any other point in the movie. It doesn't
Okay.
matter
Yeah.
because all men are like that, didn't you
Oh
know?
my god. It's so convoluted.
It is so no wonder the end was well, we're still not through
Yeah,
the
no.
end.
So okay, so let's
So
let's get through this here. So
back to that.
so Anne and the male cop are outside the car. They just found all this out, and the male cop is like, "All right, I'm going back in."
Hmm.
And he tells her to wait in the car, and he goes back inside, and Peter's gone. Turns out it was a fake blade that dispensed fake
What?
blood.
It squirts the bull. Did Peter just carry
What
that
the
on
fuck
him the
is this
entire
thing? I'm
movie?
like, that
Like
is.
planning to bust it out?
And then Peter sneaks up behind him and axes him, of course.
Oh, actually that's a pretty good
I do
scene
like
where
that,
like it's
yes.
I know it's a trope, but the trope has to come from somewhere where Peter's like completely
Uh
hidden
huh.
by the cop standing up, but then when the cop bends down, we see Peter there behind him, and then the cop stands up again, and then you can see it's actually Peter's ear that we're seeing and not the cop's ear.
Right.
Like,
That's good. I like that.
okay? That was cool,
Yes.
Dario. We'll give
We'll
you
give you
that
that
one.
one. And then the ugly metal artwork sculpture piece falls over and blocks the door.
Locks the door.
And then he waits for Anne to come in, but she pushes the door open and the sculpture impales Peter. Anne runs outside screaming.
Impales him so bad.
Oh
Well,
my God.
she stands there in the doorway screaming for the longest time, and then I'm like, "What's gonna happen?" And then she steps out, and it's raining, and she just keeps
It just keeps
screaming and
going.
just keeps and
And that's
credits.
the end. What the fuck? This movie.
Did they land the plane,
I
Bill?
don't even know. Was it even a plane? I don't even know what was landing.
What was that?
Oh my God. I'm sitting here in silence because I'm just
I'm
trying to like
sorry. This is going to be
compute.
really hard to edit because I've been
No,
like
it's fine.
snorting
I might
and
just leave it the raw audio
sneezing.
files.
I didn't bring my inhaler. I didn't think it was going to be necessary.
Oh my God. So I mean, things that this has in common with Deep Red again. You get an amateur
Wild.
investigator who just has no reason to be investigating all these things.
It's a
You
formula,
have
right?
a killer
There's a
that has a motive that just kind of makes very little sense. You have decisions that just don't make any sense from any sort of
so many red
so
herrings,
many red
so many
herrings,
clues.
incompetent police work, so many extraneous characters that like that's what makes these movies so difficult for me. Like watching them is like I have to try to remember these characters, but then they get killed. So all that remembering these characters was for nothing. I'm speechless. I will say
I think that's the correct
I
reaction.
enjoyed the ending of this. No, that's not the way to put it. The ending of this movie was more entertaining, I thought, than Deep Red. From
Yeah, it
just
was
a
well,
pure entertainment standpoint, because holy shit, it is.
there was that necklace that ripped
Oh,
entirely
that's
through
true.
the lady's
The
spine
elevator
from the elevator. Sorry for the spoilers, y'all, but
doesn't matter.
uh I mean that was pretty entertaining,
True.
but this is more like there's more plot in this ending. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true. There's more like points between point A and point Z. Like the other one just was like there's a random character and another random
The
character,
other yeah.
and they've a vested interest in this for some reason. I don't know. Is there anything you thought this movie did better than Deep Red?
I'm thinking. No.
I
No.
That's gonna be my answer
The whole
too.
thing the whole thing with the guy writes a book about
Right.
murders that inspires a real murder
Yeah.
spree, and then the real murder spree inspires the writer to also do a murder
Right. That's
spree because it turns out he was a murderer all this time, he just didn't remember. So it's like art imitates life, imitates art,
right.
imitates like, but in the end, what was the point? I don't
No,
know.
nobody
I
does.
don't know. And like as for the ending, okay, the whole thing with him faking his death, that was just silly. Like,
Yes.
did he wouldn't
It's
have had the
such a
prop
cheap thing to
handy?
do.
How would he plan to do? He wouldn't know when the cops were going to arrive.
Right.
But the only thing sillier than that is that he actually dies by accident when Anne opens the door, and
Right.
that's just random. You can't have the killer just die by
Right.
random. Like that's like something fall a piano falling out of the sky
Right.
onto the.
even things like the locations and stuff, I thought were so much better in Deep Red. Like just like all of that stuff. Like the cinematography was better, the music was better, the I don't know about the character.
Yeah, there was more like you could actually tell the movie was happening in Rome in Deep Red.
Right.
Like the only reason you know you're in Rome in this movie is because they mention it a couple
Exactly.
times.
It's very generic
That's
looking.
it. Like I'm flying to Rome. That's all. That's how we know they're there. Yeah, everything else is just up close of streets and houses, and I think like we're supposed to be really like bowled over by the the brave architecture
The
of
one
the
house.
killer's
Yeah.
house. Like it's supposed to be. It's just not that
No.
impressive anymore.
And honestly, it's shot like a sitcom, especially the scenes where it's just like Peter talking to people. It looks like a sitcom from the 80s. And I
Huh?
don't know.
I did not have
I
that
don't know
thought.
technically why that is. Maybe it's the type of cameras they used at the time or something, but it's just so
I know why sitcoms look the way they
why is that?
do. It's because they use but it's because of the okay, I'm not gonna get this right now that I said that I
Oh,
know,
you're on the
but
hook.
they use
Okay.
videotaping on
Uh-huh.
tape and it has a different look than film.
Okay.
And they also have like with the regular sitcoms that have like, the house with the living room, the kitchen, stairs, like it starts with All in the Family, I think, and
Right.
then it starts earlier than that, but that's the one that I remember. They have the camera like on tracks. So the
Yes.
camera angles are always the same one.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's just always the
Yeah.
same look. And it's always like on a like it's pretty cheap set, you know.
Sure.
Uh
Well,
Yep. Actual film is that they use to make film is different, like different rate and all that.
and I think back to
That's the extent of my
like Deep
knowledge.
Red when I'm like picturing like him and like Marcus and Carlo like in that square area and like the camera's like following them like it looks like a free form movement,
Yeah,
whereas this it's
yeah.
so boring, like all these shots
The
were like
only time we got the follow camera was when the guy was being like
yeah,
voyeuristic at the
and that was
windows.
almost like
I'm like,
too
all
much
right,
honestly, so it's like I don't know.
it's 1982. That's over.
Yeah,
Stop doing
I
that.
agree. Well, should we rate this thing? I think we're
Yeah. Well, I think I have some final
oh,
thoughts.
go ahead.
I mean, to be fair, I think my rating of this movie is going to suffer a lot from Stacy is very tired of Yellow's syndrome. If I had seen this one before Deep Red, maybe
Oh,
it would have
interesting.
done better.
Yeah.
But now it was like I've seen enough of this style.
Yeah.
Like the formula was exactly the same.
Yes.
I've had it like enough of the nonsensical plot and like the characters that just pop up to be immediately
Right. The red
killed.
herrings.
I think I've mentioned in the end, I don't even know what this movie is about. Like, so a guy exploits violence against women in his
Right.
book, which inspires a killer to kill the women that he wants to punish for aberrant sexual behavior, which the writer says the book is not even about. But in the end, maybe it really was about that. Maybe that's what crawled out of his
Hmm.
psyche, since he ended up going on a killing spree himself, basically for the same kind of reasons.
Right.
Like you broke up with this lady, now she's with someone else. What? How is that wrong? It's all in your head.
Yeah.
So in the end, it was about characters who were openly or considered to be aberrantly sexual, having to die for it,
Sure.
which is not novel or even an interesting
No.
concept
No.
whatsoever. Even if you Ouroboros it with even if just because you tie the idea into a pretzel, it doesn't, just because you make it look cool in a
Yeah.
movie, just because you have style and you could invent a plot twist or do a camera trick or two, that does not elevate your fundamental
No.
idea. And I think that is the real horror of this
I
movie.
agree.
No, this is the real lesson for me as a storyteller. So I am giving this one a 1.5. Sorry, not sorry.
Okay. That's it's about where I expected you to be. I think you gave Deep Red 2 if I'm not mistaken.
I hate being predictable.
No, I think
I
it's
think that sounds
yeah.
right.
I think I gave it a 2.5. I gave Deep Red 2.5. You gave it a 2.
Mm.
I think Graveyard Mike also gave it a 2. Um well, I'm right there with you. I'm giving this 1.5 screams also. I was gonna be
Amazing.
more charitable, but as we're talking about it, I'm
Did
like,
I talk you down?
well, I think my own brain just started like clicking, and I'm like, oh man, like, and again, maybe I'm comparing it to Deep Red, which is what we're gonna do, of course.
It's not a good pair to watch
No, I mean,
together. I just have to
the
warn people
only
that.
thing that I found more entertaining was the actual ending of this movie. And that was only because it was entertaining because it just was crazy and didn't make a lot of sense. Everything about this movie was a step down from Deep Red, for sure, in my mind. Like soundtrack, location, characters, everything, story, twists, all of that crap. And I did not want to watch this. I did not want to rewatch this movie. That was like my biggest indicator where I'm just like, it's a slog to get
Yeah.
through. I don't know. Deep Red was at
I
least like kind of charming in some ways, somehow.
it had some comedy.
Yeah, something. This one just didn't have any of that, and it just
Nope.
did not
It's all about
did not
the
do it for me.
the tits and the
Yeah,
titillation. That's all it was.
this is going to be
That's
pretty
it.
low on our list, I have a feeling.
And there are so many like reputable people out there who have said this was his best movie ever.
I was doing some reading on that after I watched it, and I don't get it. I think there are just people that like these types of movies, and I don't think you and I are those people.
Or that the style is enough for them. They don't
Yeah,
care about like what
maybe.
the actual story or content is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think we even discussed with on the last episode where it's I think Graveyard Mike Risky he called him that had said that like it's good to know like the history of these types of things because they do pop up in newer movies. Like Giallo is one of those big ones where you get all of those tropes in newer movies. So it is fun from that
Oh yeah.
perspective,
And
understanding where
cartoons.
it came from. But the source material is just not great, honestly.
Yeah. I'll say it again. I think it feels like doing our horror homework.
Yes,
That's what we
that is
did. Now we learned some
yes.
things, and I learned that I don't care for
Yep.
giallo murder
Me too.
mysteries.
Let's close the book on that one. Oh, do you
Phew.
want to tell our audience about what's coming up? Close this thing
I
out?
might have a little something to tell you
Woo.
about. Uh well, my Continental Nancy Drews. The case is closed on our two-part series. Dario done it. He really done it. No? We've tangled with the stylish, blood-spattered, and tortured mystery plots of Giallo, from the paranoid, blood-soaked Deep Red to the razor-sharp thrills of Tenebrae. And what have we learned? If you witness a murder, you're probably next. If you think you know who the killer is, you're wrong, unless you are actually the one getting murdered at that very moment. And watch out for those gleaming straight razors, as well as those dangerous looking works, or shall I say monstrosities of modern art. But don't put away your detective kits just yet, because next up, we're swapping our cryptic killers for cursed villages. And we're leaving, finally, the Italian soundstage for beautiful fog drenched forests. Our new two-part series will explore deadly and sinister outbreaks in South Korea. And we're kicking it off with The Wailing, a sprawling supernatural thriller packed with folklore, exorcisms, it's got it all, and a creeping sense of dread that is sure to seep into your porous and spongy skeleton. Until next time, uh, my advice is, if you hear an unexpected creepy lullaby or early 80s prog rock synth theme, run away. Run away.
Until next time, stay spooky.
See ya.